Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now today we're on a Sunday video, and unfortunately it's the last of the Stonehouse Brewery beers. Last of that little kind of mini series that I just bought as a wee kind of extra. I didn't actually initially go out looking for it, and I was just kind of perusing and browsing a website that supplied multiple kind of beers from different breweries, and I just thought, I'll give it a go. And I'm glad I did, because I would say that this is more of a kind of, so far, with the three beers we've done, there's a little bit of a diamond in the rough. Really, it's not so well known. They don't sell directly through their own website. You can get it from other websites. One of the main ones is probably, it's called British Beers. The Best of British Beers, I think it's called, which is where I got it from, but I think some other websites sell the stuff as well. But from my point of view, it doesn't matter where you get it from. I would recommend so far trying to get it. But this is the kind of piece de resistance, as they say. Piece de resistance. And today we're doing Station Bitter and Amber Session Beer. 3.9%, which is a bit of a strange one, because they call it a Station Bitter and then they call it an Amber Session Beer. But is it an Amber Ale? Session Amber Ale? Or is it a bitter, or what? I mean, so it's not really quite clear. But here, what does it say? Oh, there's some stuff in the back here. Some spiel. It's 3.9%, 500ml. Full-bodied crystal and chocolate malt, perfectly balanced with sterine hops. Okay, sterine hops, right, okay. So maybe get a little bit of bitterness at the back end, maybe a slightly higher IBU. But apparently it was SIBA National Gold Best Bitters in 2013. It was SIBA Regional Gold Best Bitters in 2024. And it was SIBA National Silver Best Bitters winner in 2025. And I knew none of this. Absolutely none of it. And it makes no fucking difference to me, because at the end of the day, if I knew this when I would bought it, I wouldn't have given a shit. But apparently, it was Silver Best Bitter in 2025 National. And it has been a gold winner in the past. And it has been a regional winner in the past. So, is SIBA no more than the World Beer Awards and Camera? Because not that long ago, I tried the best bitter in the World Beer Awards 2025, and it was crap. Absolutely piss water. I got 2 out of 10. And that same beer also won Champion of Champions of Britain, you know, Champion of Britain beer in was it 2008 or something like that. At the end of the day, it was in the past, but at the end of the day, it still won it. It maybe have changed since then. I honestly don't know. But from what I tasted last week, Jesus, I wouldn't have given it the fucking steam off my piss. Sweat off my balls, as we would say, you know what I mean? Never mind a fucking award. Right, shall we crack this open and see if we get a clean sweep? Right now, the only brewery that's had a clean sweep this year has been Palmer's. And it was an easy clean sweep, seriously. If they'd made any more beers, I'm sure they'd been just kept on going. They were the highlight so far of the year. They were just lovely. And I just wish I could be drinking them reviewing them every week. It'd be an absolute fucking joy, seriously. A brewery that doesn't really get any awards or any acclaims and everything else, but it's just so far ahead, in my view, so far ahead of so many breweries that it's an absolute bloody shame that people don't know about it. And that's probably my biggest recommendation, and that's what I would say for 2025. My best recommendation is get some Palmer's Brewery beers. Get on that website and buy some beer, because not affiliated, but they're bloody good. You know, it almost brings you to tears, but you can really taste the care and attention. It was just fabulous. And a big up to Adrian, my friend and business partner, because he was the one that bought it. He bought us the kind of the beers that we tried, and thanks. You're an absolute champ for that, an absolute star, Adrian. So you were, and so you are. You know what I mean? So yeah, fair play. And I know about the brewery, but this is the problem. I'm just as bad as anyone else. I'm just as guilty as anyone else. That I've went to buy one time before, and it was an early closing on the fucking beer shop, and I missed it. But I've been there plenty of other times. I've sat and done things. I've even, here's this shocker, there's a Morrison's right across from the brewery. So the brewery on one side, and then the actual car park, the Morrison's is straight on the other side. And you can actually sit there in the car park and you can actually see the fucking brewery. And the shop's just a little bit off to the side, a little bit further up the road. And I've sat there and I've went in there. I think I remember I did a Guinness review, but it was a more of a consumer side. So basically what I did was I got the pint can of Guinness and I reviewed it through their Guinness kind of fucking machine type thing, you know, their nonsense kind of thing, you know, their Guinness draft system. And I thought, is the 1 pint give you a similar kind of product through their system than the actual buying the kind of proper kind of Guinness draft cans? So it was a case of, could you buy the pint cans actually at a cheaper price and get a similar product to their kind of specialist kind of Guinness draft pour kind of thing, you know, the one where you press a little button at the top and all that, and it's USB chargeable, all that. I can't remember the exact name of it because it doesn't fucking matter, because it doesn't make any difference really. It doesn't improve the taste of the beer, it still tastes like fucking shite, like water. Anyway, you know, it's like fucking stouts for children. And I don't give a fuck if anyone wants to argue about that, because it lacks fucking flavour and everything else, and the only way it gets body because it uses nitro pour, because it can't deliver it by itself. So it's a fucking weak product, so don't give us your shit. And I'll fucking challenge anybody. You try have a real fucking stout, you know, you'd know the fucking difference. So yeah, all you're just doing is drinking fucking baby drinks. It's like fucking baby sham for fucking beer drinkers. You know what I mean? Oh, straight off there, controversial, don't give a toss, it's honesty. But anyway, I was in that car park, and then I was in the Morrison's, and I was walking about looking for that fucking product, so I could do that review. And it did turn out that yes, you got the exact same kind of similar product on the pint cans of Guinness as you would with the kind of specialty ones that were selling a couple of quid more for a 4-pack. So there you go. So it was good consumer advice if you wanted to drink that piss, but if you weren't into that piss like any normal traditional ale drinker who actually enjoys beer and actually likes beer flavours, then it would make no difference to you whatsoever. You'd be thinking, what the fuck's that got to do with me? That's just piss. You know what I mean? And fair play to you. But that's the thing that gets me, and that's the thing that really annoys me, is that I was in there buying that shite when there was far better beers right across the fucking road, and I'm just as guilty as plenty of other people that ignore it, that don't basically buy from good quality brewers that actually know what they're fucking doing and actually care and use good ingredients and make lovely beers. I'm a prick just the same as everyone else, you know what I mean? Hands up. And I've always meant to. I did do one attempt and it failed. And then I thought, oh, I'll get it another time. And it wasn't. It was Adrian that kind of bought us that, and fair play to him. And but he'd also tried some as well. He was a sneaky bugger. I mean, he wasn't just working for that. He'd actually previously got himself a tasting pack and enjoyed them and that type of stuff. And then he was in doing a job in that kind of area. And he popped in the wee pass and got us a tasting pack. And yeah, like I say, thanks. It's been the highlight of the year. That's the reality of it. And that would be my recommendation. Try it. You'd be very surprised. And I would say afterwards you would enjoy it, and you would also realise it's money well spent as well. You know what I mean? And I still want to do the kind of live beer as well. I will try and get that done at some point. But anyway, we're on this one, which again could be almost a good recommendation of the year. But let's crack it open and see what it's like. Oh, cheeky. If you want to come in now. You might as well come, Olga. You might as well come in now. I'll just pause it. It's all right. Come on. Sorry about that. I had the wife visit me there during the question and that type of stuff. Wanted him to order sesame oil, and she also wanted to sit in a comfy seat to get her shoes on because they're off for a walk. So there you go. Real life in action. Right, let's get this poured. I can't even remember what the hell I was supposed to be pouring. Jesus. She's shaking these fucking things. Which one was in the door? I think this one was in the door. Hence why, look at it. I had two beers in the fridge. One was one from a Triple F brewery, and it was actually shoved in the fridge. It was sitting on top of something else in the bottom of the fridge. So that wasn't an issue. But they both were sitting in there. And then, of course, when I was getting them out, I went, well, there's only one. And then I looked, oh, there's one in the door. Sure it is. It's like, fuck them. You know. Yeah. Well, what I've poured so far actually looks quite nice. It looks kind of more of a kind of bitter. There was the world's best one for 2025. But then all the lights and that type of stuff looked more like that's a bit of annoying, this one, isn't it? Come on, let's get it poured. In the meantime, can we talk about anything happening in the beer world? No, there's one big thing happening in the beer world, that the kind of company stroke kind of investment group that took over a few different breweries, including Black Sheep, is in a bit of kind of financial difficulty, and they're bringing in the administrators, which again obviously puts the Black Sheep brewery at risk, because if nobody basically buys the whole kind of brewery outright from the administrators, then it could be lost. They might maybe buy the brands, or maybe some of the kind of beer rights, you know, the kind of brand rights for certain products or something like that, like Rig Welter or something. Although, to be totally honest, there wouldn't be many. I mean, I wouldn't buy Black Sheep for quite a few of their brands. I mean, if I was going to buy anything from Black Sheep, I don't even think it's worthwhile for the brewery, even though they're talking about their stone fermenter and all this kind of bollocks. Yeah, I'm not buying that crap. What I would go for is the Rig Welter recipe and brand name, and probably the milk stout, and I would probably say that would be the two main ones. Not really impressed with their bitter and some of their other beers. You know, I find they're okay, but nothing special. And then all the other ones are kind of slightly lacking. But the two standouts are their milk stout and, of course, Rig Welter, which really wasn't a Black Sheep kind of beer anyway. Well, it wasn't supposed to be a Black Sheep beer. It was originally supposed to be an anniversary beer for Theakston's, but they never got a chance to actually produce it commercially before the brewery was bought over. So they took that with them because it wasn't an existing brand or product for that brewery. There you go. So it was by default that Black Sheep got it, you know. So right, finish this off. There we go, cheeky peeps. There we go. It looks not so bad now, doesn't it? Looks a better pint now. It just takes a little bit of time. So yeah, to get back onto the Black Sheep, not a particularly good situation. It would be a shame if some of these beers were lost, but let's look at it from the other point of view. A lot of the beers wouldn't be a particularly great loss to lose, and I think that's one of the problems, is that the range isn't consistent. I think it's the case as though they had a bitter to the kind of similar standard of the Rigwelter beer or their malt stout and maybe a mild. I think they'd have done better. But I think they've dibble-dabbled in the craft and the kind of new world hop nonsense and everything else. And I think it's the case as though if your brand was more consistent towards traditional ale drinkers, then you might do better. But this idea where it's like you've got two good kind of traditional beers, the other stuff's are kind of mediocre, and then you've tried to kind of dibble-dabble down the craft route, and you're thinking, no, stick to what you know and try and expand on that, try and improve, try and come out with a new, better recipe, a better product for your bitter and things like that. Maybe bring out a mild or something like that. But no. So yeah, there's a bit of kind of bad management and not so great beers either. It's a bit disappointing, but I wouldn't say for me it's a particularly great loss, because I'll be totally honest, I've been in plenty of places where there's Black Sheep beers, and because it's not been the right ones, I'm like, nah, not really, no. It's too easy to find a better beer a lot of times with the Black Sheep beers. Anyway, what's this smell like? Well, I'm getting malt. Getting slight hoppiness to it. But yeah, getting that kind of slight malt hop mix, you kind of get. Kind of slightly kind of grassy notes. You just get mixed in with the kind of slightly malty syrupiness, slightly kind of caramel notes in the aromas. Maybe a hit of toffee. But it actually smells quite nice and quite inviting. Let's see what it tastes like. Tastes like a nice bitter. Unfortunately, from where it is, I'd maybe look for a little bit more bitter in the back end. Maybe look for a little bit more just because of where it's situated. Remember, it's just south of Liverpool, in Shropshire. And you expect to maybe get a little bit more of a kind of a Yorkshire edge to the bitter, rather than, I would say it's kind of in between a southern bitter and a Yorkshire bitter. It's a kind of slight hybrid. It's got a bit more in the back end than a southern bitter, but not enough in the back end to be a Yorkshire bitter. But it's got a nice body and a nice amount of malt, so it has. Woohoo! Well, it's very drinkable. And you've got some nice kind of hoppy, grassy tones that go really well with the kind of grain tones that you're getting there. And it does feel obviously a little bit lighter. It does feel a bit more sessionable. It's not an overly rich or big-bodied bitter. But yeah, it's nice. And there's that balance. I keep saying, even though they've used certain hops in their recipes that wouldn't be my first choice, just because of how they balanced it out with the malt and everything else, that even though they are using New World hops, which I'll be totally honest, aren't my kind of go-to or favourite, they've managed to work them, and I think that's what they've done. They've taken a more of a kind of traditional outlook, and they've made a traditional beer, but maybe swapped some of the hops out to kind of more kind of crafty, kind of New World hops. But again, not too much that is going fucking mental or crazy or sickening, looks over the top. It's using them in that kind of same kind of traditional ratio. And it works. And it is something different. But because it's got that really good foundation, actually nice tasty beer. So it is. Nice tasty beer. And it's a nice looking pint. And yeah. But yeah, it is more on a session par. It's a bit lighter in the body. Maybe slightly a bit lighter in the malt that you'd expect on the mid-tongue. But overall, a very nice drinkable beer, and it's crazy how this is a Sibber Silver 125 for bitters. And then last week I was tasting the world's best bitter for 2025. And yeah, it was bottom on the undrinkable. It was just shockingly bad. And it just kind of highlights what the hell was going on. You know what I mean? This is a thing that annoys me about the beer industry right now, that it's an absolute bloody mess. It really is. And all these organisations, and I think they've definitely got ulterior motives, because they're not basically, a lot of the awards aren't based on how the beer tastes or the quality of the beer or anything like that. It's based more on, I mean, you sometimes wonder, is it fucking kickbacks or backhanders or some sort of corruption going on? Because, I mean, it's so fucking stark and so far away from what I'm tasting that you have to kind of question what the hell's going on. I mean, I know there's cases of, well, like a good conspiracy, but this is happening way, way too often for it just to be the odd little mistake or the odd little glitch in the process. Explain that one, and don't turn around and take Sibber because this one's got, Sibber's maybe got this one right, because I've tasted other ones where Sibber's basically given it, the Gold Award and National Award, and it's been absolute shit. So yeah, Sibber's just as much hit and miss as anyone else. Shall we break down these flavours? Starts off with a nice bit of malt, but not overly too much. I mean, it does feel sessionable straight from the start. Not too much at the front end, but just enough to think, this is a nice start. And what you get is, you get a nice bit of syrup, nice bit of caramel, a little hint of toffee, not too strong. And again, that's what it does. It just feels like it's slightly dialed back to be more sessionable. So you're not getting that kind of additional richness of the kind of toffee edge. Too much with the malt. Get a nice little bit of grain there. I mean, kind of slightly kind of golden kind of grain kind of tones. And a little bit of sweetness. But again, not too much. Again, quite controlled and dialed back. Moves on to the mid-tongue. And again, it just feels that little bit lighter. I mean, in cases of the malt doesn't really kind of ramp up from the levels of the front of the mouth. It kind of slightly dips a little bit. And again, it just adds to that kind of feel of sessionable. The body doesn't really kind of grow in the mid-tongue as well. It kind of stays kind of consistent. And it's not watering anyway, but it just feels more sessionable. It doesn't have that kind of richness and that kind of stuff. And the flavour intensity is that kind of nice kind of balance as well for a more sessionable beer rather than something that's a little bit more to it, a bit more kind of a thicker around the waist, as they say. But yeah, sweetness is consistent all the way through from front to back. But what you do start to get in the kind of middle of the mid-tongue is just slight kind of floral tones and little kind of slight rosy tones is what you're getting, which is quite nice. And these kind of little kind of hop accents that you're getting move and just they kind of progress to give that little bit of bitterness at the back end which I'd say is a little bit more than a Southern bitter, but still quite a bit less than, say, a Yorkshire bitter. And yeah, it just kind of works. I would like a little bit more bitterness at the back end, but that's just a personal preference. But overall, I wouldn't kick it out of bed for farting, put it that way. If it pissed the bed, it's out, I'm sorry, but you know what I mean, it's not happening. But maybe just a bit of flatulence, I can live with that, you know what I mean, if the window's open. You know. But yeah. Overall, it just feels balanced. It starts off as a kind of more session edge kind of ale, and all the way through and finishes like a session edge ale. And I think that's probably why the bitterness at the back end is just a little bit less than maybe what I would want. But I think obviously just because if I had that, it would probably make me feel less sessionable, and then make other parts of the beer feel less so, because, well, maybe a bit too, it would create an imbalance, basically. That might suit me at the back end, but would maybe kind of deteriorate the front end a bit and the middle. So I think overall, I've got it right. And yeah. Mouthfeel spot on. And just overall, I would like to try this in cask. I'm sure it'd be lovely. In fact, I would like to try a few of their beers on cask, because I'm sure they'd be lovely, because they're nice in the bottle, and usually they're a lot better in the real live beer. So it'd be nice to try them, and hopefully maybe at some point I'll get the chance. But yeah, it's a clean sweep for the Stonehouse Brewery. Fair play to them. It'd be a shame. I would like to have seen if they'd actually done a more kind of robust, more of a richer bitter. It'd be interesting to see what their take would be in that. I can appreciate a session one, and I don't mind session ones, but especially at this time of year, I'd like something a little bit more richer, you know, just to try. Unfortunately, they don't do that, so I've got no fucking choice. That's my lot, you know. Bugger. But yeah, it'd be nice to try something on a little kind of darker edge, a little bit richer edge, but you know, but that's life. So, what would I give this out of 10? Here's the question. That is nice. It was actually quite nice. Out of 10, what would I give it? I'm going to give it a 6.5, only because two things. I'd rate something a little bit more richer, especially at this time of year, and generally I prefer something a little bit more richer on the bitter side. I do like bitters as one of my favourite, if not the favourite of mine, but I prefer the kind of richer side of a traditional bitter rather than a sessionable side. But I still enjoy a sessionable side. There's nothing against that. But on that basis, yeah, I think 6.5 is probably a fair score. If you're into kind of more sessionable style, kind of bitters or amber ales or things like that, then this would be probably more up your street. So that's the only kind of difference. But even then, I'd still class it as a success. It's very enjoyable. So there you go. It's 3.9%. It's 500ml. It's a nice sessionable bitter. It's a clean sweep for the Stonehouse Brewery. 6.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye for now.